When should I start? Anytime? Oh, sorry, it just have to put in here. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Josephine Pond, Minister of Seniors and Housing. On behalf of Premier Jason Kenney and my government colleagues, thank you for joining me today for important announcements. And also that are joining me today with all my colleagues at the MLA, Calgary, Cross, Mickey, and Mary, Irene Martin, Lindsay from the ASCHA, Alberta Seniors Community Associations, and also the Martha Hussein with Civeta, and thank you for joining us today. Alberta's government have been working on a strategy to transfer affordable housing in our province. The strategy is based on what we hear from the Affordable Housing Review Panel, our housing partner, as well as the best practice used by other provinces. I'm pleased to share it with you today and outline the related legislation. But first, I will share with you about how we got there. Affordable housing is the foundations of an inclusive and fair society. And right now, this foundation is cracked and buckling under the weight of an outdated and complex system that has not been structurally updated in more than 20 years. Currently, more than 24,000 households are on a wait list for affordable housing. And then nearly 500,000 Albertans are living in homes that max out their household budgets. The buildings owned by the government are aging, and many are in need of renewal to preserve their need and use. Too much of a system is bogged down by red tape. It is inefficient and fail to address the diverse and unique housing needs of Albertans across the province. We need to take steps to strengthen it today. In the last 2 years, Alberta's government has built more than 1,500 safe, quality homes for senior individuals and families with low income. But it is clear government investment alone cannot keep pace with the growing demand. And we cannot keep floating taxpayer or hard-earning dollars into the inefficient system that's not effectively and efficiently to serve Albertans most in need. Right now, our affordable housing system is missing the mark. But with a balance of bold and careful changes, we can fix it. This directions aligns with the advice from the Affordable Housing Review Panel, which completed its review of the affordable housing system in May 2020. Alberta's government accepts all 19 recommendations to help create more flexible, fair, and inclusive housing options. We have already made progress on 3 of the panel's recommendations. We redesigned the rent supplement programs to include more Albertans and provide temporary benefits to a working household. We are maximizing fragile funding through Canada Alberta Housing Benefit to ensure that we support as many Albertans as possible with rent assistance. And we launched a province-wide online housing portal to make it easier for applicants to find housing options that meet their needs. By releasing Alberta's housing strategy, Stronger Foundations, it addresses the first recommendations for the long-term strategy, and it mapped out how we intend to tackle the rest. The strategy. We developed a Made in Alberta solutions by listening to advice from the Affordable Housing Review Panel, which sought input from Albertans and researched the best practice in other jurisdictions. We listened to our partners across Alberta about how their housing needs are different. The strategy I'm announcing today will build a housing system that is fair, flexible, inclusive, sustainable, and adaptable to our local needs. Over the next 10 years, Alberta's government will take bold actions to provide more affordable housing, options that meet the needs of Albertans with low income. Stronger foundations is Alberta's 10-year strategy to improve and expand affordable housing. It charts our path forward. It outlines how we will target to support an additional 25,000 households to increase the totals of numbers of households served to 82,000, and increasing of more than 40% and over 10 years by supporting Albertans most in need, improving access, increasing planning and governance, and also enhancing sustainability and efficiency, and then enabling the growth in investment. To do this, we will encourage and attract investment through innovative models such as a mixed income developments and a public-private partnership. They are tailored to affordable housing. This is one key way we can increase the number of households that can access the affordable housing. One size doesn't fit all, and flexibility is the pillars of this strategy. That's why we will focus on the long-term collaborations with the nonprofit organization, housing provider, and community to deliver housing options that address local needs. These partnerships will result in a new affordable housing project that are being community-driven and are focused by tapping into local expertise. Our strategy will enable the more local independence and offer stability to both tenants and providers. We will also help tenants that improve their personal situations by having a safe and secure place to call home. Albertans won't need to address or stress about keeping a roof over their head. This will allow them to create new opportunities and take a progressive step to improve their day-to-day life. Work is already underway on a framework to govern our partnership with the private and nonprofit sectors and plans to manage government's own affordable housing assets. And Alberta's government is laying the groundwork to improve the system with the legislative changes in Bill 78, the Alberta Housing Amendment Act. If passed, these legislations will include opportunities for partnership, ensure appropriate oversight for new ventures, and improve the capacity of the housing sector. We will also continue to improve the Finding Housing online tool and also expanding the rent supplement program, among the many other initiatives outlined in the strategies. Now, I know some people may say that we are taking a step toward privatization. Let me be clear. This is not true. We are focusing on partnership. Government investment alone cannot meet the demand and growing needs for affordable housing in Alberta. But there is still a need for the government to provide funding and other incentives and to hold our partners accountable to Albertans. We will continue to fill that needs. The Affordable Housing Review Panel told us government should not own the majority of affordable housing. It should be the regulated and funded housing program. The government agrees. We will focus on people, not on the building, to support those who need the affordable housing. I know this strategy outlined some of the bold changes for the sector. I can assure Albertans we will proceed thoughtfully and carefully over the next 10 years. We will continue to protect the most vulnerable and ensure they are not left behind. And we will continue to work with our housing partner to adjust the needs to their communities. Stronger Foundations is available on alberta.ca, and I encourage all Albertans to read it. I would like to thank the Affordable Housing Review Panel, my advisory committee on housing, and the Technical Housing Advisory Team for all their hard work and provide input into the development of the strategy, their external expertise in the housing field, and the commitments to help us to understand how these changes will help Albertans. They was so valuable and greatly appreciated. Thank you for helping us to get it right. After all, housing is the foundations of the bright and prosperous future. We promise Albertans more affordable housing would be available to those who it needs, and we are keeping that promise. Thank you. I would like to ask my colleague, MLA Mary, and Chair of the Affordable Housing Review Panel, to say a few words. MLA Mary.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Minister Pon, for inviting me to join you for today's announcement. We know that Alberta's affordable housing system is foundational to Alberta's social and economic prosperity. Last year, I was honored to serve Albertans as chair of the Affordable Housing Review Panel. Nonprofit housing providers, private rental operators, real estate developers, and investors, academics, and advocates for housing join me at the table. Minister Pon appointed these external experts to serve as members of the panel for their diverse experience and housing expertise. The Housing Review set Alberta's government on a path to rethink the way that affordable housing is delivered in our province. The Affordable Housing Review Panel went to great lengths to understand the affordable housing system and to engage with Albertans. In just a few short months, we analyzed a massive quantity and quality of research data and best practices. We considered market trends and projections and compared approaches to housing in other jurisdictions. We heard from almost 160 individual Albertans and organizations through our engagement sessions and received more than 120 written submissions. As a result, the panel prepared 19 recommendations to help Alberta's government create a more flexible, fair, and inclusive housing option. These recommendations focused on a number of areas. Shifting the province's role from being a significant owner to that of a partner and a funder was one of those areas. Changing programs to focus on people rather than buildings was another. Drawing on local and private sector expertise to provide more housing options and updating regulations to encourage innovation and reduce administrative red tape were important considerations. I am proud of the work that we accomplished. I am pleased to see the panel's input and advice has informed a new vision for affordable housing in our province. Not only does Stronger Foundation's 10-year strategy address the panel's recommendations, it reflects the principles that we identified. We learned that affordable housing in Alberta needs to evolve to new demands of our future. We found innovative and cutting-edge techniques, some utilized in other jurisdictions, and some developed specifically for Alberta, but all designed to meet the needs for Albertans as we embark into the next decade and beyond. Alberta's government has listened to Albertans, and I am pleased to see this important work being implemented. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Asema and Mary. And thank you so much for your hard work. It lasted a few months, and I understand that you spent a whole summer and it's just doing that consultations, and that which just help us to get into this point today. So thank you to you and your team and all the partners. Now, I would like to invite my other very good friend and a partner, Irene, Martin, and Nancy, the executive directors from the Alberta Social Seniors Community Housing. Irene, please.
So thank you to, Honorable, Minister Pon and MLA Amory and her ministry team for recognizing the critical importance of housing to individuals and families. The Alberta Seniors and Community Housing Association and its members see this need firsthand. And this strategy marks the beginning of an exciting transformation. We congratulate you for the ambitious targets and are ready to work with you to ensure that the current housing is optimized, supports are available, and new housing supply meets growing demand. Alberta's entire housing continuum was consulted during this strategy, and we are happy to see much of the input and advice provided by experts from within the housing sector. Those with frontline operational experience has been incorporated. We thank each and every ASHA member who came forward and helped inform this strategy. This strategy is a critical and foundational step in the right direction. We will work with government, stakeholders, and our members in creating a more holistic approach to housing and supports for Albertans. We know that appropriate, affordable housing truly grounds individuals and families. It is the base for living well. So all, levels of government must come together to address housing needs and, create a better way forward for individuals and families. This strategy highlights concrete targets, including the additional supports for 25,000 households, and points towards providing flexibility for local communities to address their unique affordable housing needs, enabling innovative approaches, improving processes for planning and funding maintenance and redevelopment so that affordable housing is maintained in good repair, increasing appropriate tenant supports to help Albertans thrive, supporting navigation and access to ensure smooth flow through the housing and support continuum, overcoming hurdles related to access in the application process. Our housing system must be inclusive to everyone. We all need a home to rest, recharge, and live fulfilling lives. Creating, community hubs in seniors' lodges that build on the welcoming, vibrant, and safe communities already in place. Empowering Albertans, communities, and housing providers. This empowerment must, also come with appropriate resources. So ASHA is committed to working with all levels of government, stakeholders, communities, and our members to begin implementing this strategy. We need Albertans of every stripe to support this framework and work towards creating a brighter future for Albertans in housing need. Alberta's affordable housing providers have ideas, solutions, and boundless energy. With our members, we will provide bold leadership and work tirelessly within this framework to achieve our noble cause, ensuring Albertans live in housing that honors their dignity, serves their needs, and inspires purpose in their chosen community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irene. My next guest, Mark Hossain, who's the interim CEO for Savita. And Mark, please.
Thank you, Minister, Honorable Minister, and MLA Amory. I'd like to thank you, Minister, and your team for having me here to speak on behalf of Savita and behalf of all of the clients that we serve in support in the Edmonton region. Savita's had a long history of providing affordable housing options in Edmonton. We manage over 4,500 community housing units on behalf of the Government of Alberta, and we manage and own about 600 near-market units and 130 mixed income. We also administer almost 3,500 rental subsidies to tenants in the private market on behalf of your government. Affordable housing is in desperate need across Alberta. And according to the 2016 federal census, only 2.9% of households lived in subsidized housing in Alberta, which is among the lowest proportions of all the provinces, and the demand continues to increase. In Edmonton, over 48,000 households spend more than 30% of their income on housing costs, and almost half of these spend more than 50%. The reality is this: a municipality cannot function effectively without safe and affordable housing options for people of modest incomes. People with modest incomes need a place to live, where they can live their best lives, where they can give their kids opportunities, where they can have enough disposable income to spend in local businesses. Everyone should have access to a house they need that they can afford. That is why it's so important to offer safe and affordable housing options for all income levels. At Savita, our waitlist has grown from 2,000 households in 2014 to over 9,000 households today, an increase of over 350%. We are pleased to be invited to be part of your housing review panel and about the future. We believe that the problem of housing affordability is solvable, as I know you do as well, and this strategy will help us get to those solutions. The Affordable Housing Review Panel identified a clear need to redefine the government's role, tap into community expertise, expand partnerships, reward innovation, and simplify the system. Supporting Albertans in need is such an important part of this strategy, and we are committed to serving our clients every day to make sure they can live their best lives in our homes. Enhancing the sustainability and effectiveness of the affordable housing system is also an important goal of this strategy. Savita has worked closely with all three levels of government and the private sector to provide innovative and necessary housing options for Edmontonians in need, and we will continue to do so. And we're very glad this strategy supports and hopefully enhances these relationships. A good example of this kind of collaboration is our Londonderry redevelopment project that's set to open in the new year. We're looking forward to provide much needed space for 240 families to call home. I'd like to thank the Honourable Minister Pon and her administration for their work on this new strategy and for inviting us to work together with them on the Affordable Housing Review Panel that produced the recommendations in this strategy. And we look forward to future collaboration and partnership as we continue to work together on solutions for the housing system. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mark. There's nothing more important to have such a great partner with us to move this forward, particularly this is affordable housing strategy. And we're looking forward to enhance and continue working with both of you. Thank you again, MLA Mary and Irene and Mark for joining me today. And now I would like to conclude this announcement. And I will like to ask us pass this on to the Dylan to moderate any questions from the media. Oh, before that, sorry, I have to show this off. This is what I'm talking about, the stronger foundations strategy plans. I would encourage you, either you can get a copy or you get it online. This is the important pieces of report that we're showing that how we're going to move this forward. Thank you. Dylan?
Great. Thank you very much, Minister. We will now take our questions to the queue. Every person with a question will have an opportunity to ask their question and a further follow-up. Operator, can you put through the first caller?
Sarah Kimdina, Global News. Hi, thank you for taking my question. I did want to ask if this 10-year plan does include any transitional housing for people experiencing homelessness.
Well, thank you for the question, Dina. That's a very important. Homelessness is always one of the focus for affordable housing, but that homelessness in fall and under the Community Social Service, the Minister Jason Loon, and we have been working very closely to on the transitional housing and supported housing, and we will continue to do that. So in this strategy plan, there is a discussions with the Minister Loon ministry. So we continue to do that.
Thank you. Sarah, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. I also understand with some of the affordable housing that is currently available, some of it might be needing repairs and things like that, and that the Alberta government may be looking at selling some units. I'm wondering if you can go into detail on how that will look like with selling affordable housing units that are older. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, that is a plan, part of a strategy is how we going to utilize our existing asset. Currently, we have about 3,000 units. So that we are planning, we just order or under review right now for the real estate management assets report. It is coming up very soon. And that report contains those are the assets that we have, how we going, those are underused or not utilized, or some law land that we can maximize that investments to transfer, or even the partners with our a partner, housing provider, or nonprofit organizations to working together. So for those that repair the facility or project that we want to either sell, if this is a private sale, we will sell those facility at the market value. So for those one that we are going to partnership or transfer or even investing as a capital, we will look working with the partner, housing provider and nonprofit organizations, work out some kinds of agreements, how we going to work on it. Maybe some of the facility, because they are aging, we might invest some of the money to upgrade it and then before we do a transfer. So stay tuned. So when we have the real estate management assets report ready, we will provide you more detail.
Thank you, Minister. Operator, can you put through the next caller?
Bellefontaine, CBC.
Hi, Minister. You said in your opening remarks that this was not privatization, but we've just learned that the legislation allows what you call joint ventures, which includes partnerships with for-profit companies, which will subsidize for-profit development by having some mixed income units. And we've also learned that the government is planning to sell off assets that were originally financed with taxpayer money. So I wonder if you can explain to us how this is not privatization.
Thank you for these very important questions. Let me be clear again. What we're doing here for this Affordable Housing Amendments Act, it is a partnership. It's not privatization. The difference is a partnership means we are going to partners and are working with our housing provider and nonprofit organizations to utilize those as a facility or the projects that are under use right now, or some of the facility that we're going to transfer, then let them to look after the operating. Because based on the 19 recommendations from a housing review panel, this is one of the recommendations that government move from the ownership instead the regulators and funder. So we take that the government think that this is very reasonable because it's currently, because the demand is so high, the government alone unable to afford to continue maintaining all those project and facility. And the demand is going up and the wait list is increasing. So that is the innovative way that we can improve the existing system. Which is, I remind you that it has been almost over 20 years that affordable housing haven't changed any structural change. So this is the time we do it. But it is not privatized because as a government, even though we either transfer or transfer those facility or projects to the nonprofit organizations or housing provider, government is still play a main role on those that are regulated and also continue to maintain and fund it to some of the facility and a project. So once again, it is a partnership. It is an innovative way to create more affordable housing for Albertans.
Thank you, Minister. Michelle, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I do, but Minister, some of the partnerships are with private companies. I know you guys are really trying to emphasize the fact that nonprofits are part of the mix, but so are private companies. So when the government of Alberta transfers assets, that tells me the government of Alberta no longer owns those assets. So that's privatization, Minister. So I'm just wondering if you can explain to me how you can tell Albertans this is not privatization.
Okay, well, I can be make it more clear, a little bit more clear to you why it's not privatization, why it's a partnership. Because when we transfer, there is two ways to do it. Okay, for the private sector, maybe they are not interested to the partnership and just want to buy our asset because of location, because of building, for whatever reason. That would be a sales. Okay, so we will sell that project to the private sector, and we will charge them the market value. And when we receive the proceeds, this is no difference and buy and sell real estate. And when we receive the proceeds, we will reinvest that proceeds back to the affordable housing to build more housing and inject it in the affordable housing system. For the second alternative, then when we do partnerships with the private organizations, sometimes we will transfer part of a title, sometimes we will transfer a whole title. However, when we transfer the title, we will still have to work on this agreement. That agreement is to make sure to guarantee that projects going to continue to manage as an affordable housing and provide affordable housing to Albertans. And we also we put a caveat on the title. So to make sure that whoever the private sectors that take it over or transfer the title, they will continue this work for the government. So that if, let's say that, well, I don't have a crystal ball, but let's say that after 10 years that the private sector say, I'm not in. However, the government will be step in to make sure that facility or that project, we will take it over to continue manage for the affordable housing for Albertans. That's why we call that it's a partnership, it's not privatization.
Thank you, Minister. Operator, can you put through the next caller?
Dave Kaiser, City News.
Hi, good morning. For clarification, Minister, I mean, if you are selling off your affordable housing units here to a private company that isn't beholden to taxpayers, isn't that the definition of privatization, regardless of whether or not the government partners with those companies after the fact?
As I mentioned, that when we sell that facility or project to the private sector, it is a sales. It's a considered sales that buy and sell. So when we sell it, let's say the $20 million for one facility, so that we will get the cash. So we will transfer the title. It's just a normal real estate exchange, the sales. Then the money, the $20 million, so we will go back to that affordable housing, and those money will be we invest in affordable housing system. We might be use it to upgrade some of the facility and project, or we may be sometimes that and partner with the private sector and nonprofit organization or housing provider to build more affordable housing. So I just want to make it clear that that's a true way to do it. One is straightly sales. The capital and the cash that we get from the sales will be we invest back to affordable housing ministry again and to build the other facility or some other use. But the second thing is when we transfer the title, the government is still managed and working with that the owner, or nonprofits, or a housing provider, and we will still continue to manage, and that we will be put the caveat and make sure that they are committed that agreement as a continuous affordable housing.
Thank you. And for the follow-up?
All right. Yeah, what I guess I'm not completely getting is isn't selling the properties and then subsidizing or paying third parties, some of which could be could be for profits for affordable housing. Wouldn't that be more expensive than the government just maintaining the properties and upgrading them right now?
Well, because we have a 3,000 facility, and as I said that it is because of demands is increasing, and to maintain, to go back and continue to keep those facilities is going to be a little bit hard for the government for the long term. And then beside that, this is recommended by the Affordable Housing Panel. This is a need to be done, and it will save the taxpayer dollar. And particularly that when we partnership those facilities, and they're going to continue to upgrade or that invest in those facilities because of they're part of ownership or the ownership, and we will save the government money to maintain, and also that that's their investment and a partnership. So like I say, we sell it. But doesn't mean that we, on the hand, we will continue to working with the private sector.
Thank you, Minister. Operator, can you put through the next caller?
Eileen Skolsky, CTV.
Hi, Minister. Thanks so much for taking my question. I'm wondering about the city's involvement in this plan. You talk about private and nonprofit sector, but would the province be providing funding to cities to operate housing developments once they've been constructed or redeveloped?
Well, currently we're still working on the plan. So we're waiting for the real estate management assets report come back. And as we all know that we just have 2 new mayors and a new council in both major cities, including Red Deer. So we haven't had a meeting yet, so I cannot make any comments on this question yet. But I'm sure that we will meet very soon. They're working on all the details, how the municipalities are involved in these transitions.
Thank you, Minister. And is there a follow-up question?
Yes, as a follow-up, I just am wondering about that 25,000 number. I guess I'm wondering how we arrived at that number as being the goal in terms of the numbering of units over the 10 years, and whether that number actually takes into consideration the growth in need that is expected over the next decade. As you mentioned in your comments, we have seen that need grow exponentially over the last couple of years.
Yes. Well, good questions. The 25,000 number is compared to the national's average unit. Because right now, the national housing, the affordable housing unit, that's the ranking is about 4.3%. But for us, for Alberta's, our affordable housing units average is about 3.1. So that's the 25,000 households has come that we would like to increase in the next 10 years. It is based on the national average.
Thank you, Minister. And is there a follow-up question?
That was my follow-up, but I'll take another if it's an option.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Operator, we'll move on to the next caller.
Lisa Johnson, Post Media.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Minister, I'm still a little bit confused as to how selling publicly owned and publicly funded assets to private companies is not privatization. Maybe if you could compare it to a different arrangement that the government has, is this akin to privately contracting doctors, or is this similar to the P3 construction of schools? How I still don't understand, with all due respect, how this is not privatization.
Well, as I mentioned, that there's privatizations that we sell it, so we got an asset, but we probably use it for something else. But this here went the two options: either sell it or partnership. Means when we sell some of the facility, okay, the proceeds we receive from the sales, that would be we invest back to affordable housing. Okay, that is a different. That if it's say privatizations, that means that assets they sell it probably never come back to the affordable housing again. But that is a difference, and also that this is an innovative ways to doing things. So I will encourage you that look at this as stronger foundations. They will explain it to you how we can do. The differences between the sales and the partnership. So that, again, it's not privatizations, it's a partnership. And those are facilities sitting there haven't been unused for a long time, for the few years, some of the facility. So that is just a way that we have to utilize and maximize the taxpayer dollar, because it has been sitting there for a long time, this facility. So if we are not going to do something, we're going to continue to pay for the operating costs for this facility, and we are not wisely to use our asset to convert to cash, and we invest in affordable housing.
Thank you, Minister. Lisa, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I'm not sure how reinvesting the proceeds back into affordable housing means that it is not privatization. I still don't understand that, but I'm wondering if you can answer a different question here. I mean, these agreements, these what you call joint venture agreements, which appear to be P3s, we don't know the details of these agreements. You say that there's going to be oversight, but these agreements are to be decided. Is that on a case-by-case basis? And isn't this opening a huge barn door here for an ad hoc agreements with different private companies without a whole lot of public transparency?
For the P3 agreements, currently we still continue working on it. Like I say, this is a 10-year strategy plan. We may not just sell everything off the next year or 2 years from now. It's a long time. It's a long term for 10 years. So that we are, like as I mentioned, that we are still waiting for that real estate management's assets reports come back. So when we receive the report, we're gonna break it down to different categories. We're gonna look at that which one we're going to transfer, which one we're going to sell, and which one we want to keep. So for that P3 agreement, we still continue to working on it. However, that criteria would be open to everyone, whoever interested to buy it. It's not necessarily private sector. Even a nonprofit organization, they are interested to purchase our facility. They're welcome to do that. But currently, I don't really have the details about the P3 partnership details, but we will release it later. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Operator, can you put through the next caller?
Catherine Grogowski, Alberta Today.
Hi, thanks for taking my question, Minister. In one of the answers, you gave an example that in 10 years, maybe the private sector will decide, hey, I don't want to be in this anymore. What is to stop the government from subsidizing the private sector and then the private sector operator said, nice and cheap, getting too expensive, not making a profit, and now the public sector is on the hook. What's to stop the government from being on the hook here?
Sorry, that kind of breaking out. So that would you mind to repeat the question again, because that is a part of it I didn't hear. Sorry.
Okay, so you said there's an example where the private sector who initially got into this affordable housing agreement 10 years from now can say, hey, this is too expensive, I don't want to be in this anymore. What's to stop the government from being on the hook for maintenance when maintenance gets more expensive down the road?
Well, with this, we are like I say, that we are continues to work with the private sector to maintain the facility. So that either that if they, let's say that after 10 years, the private sector transfer back to us and say this is not the business we get in, we're going to continue to support that. We are not going to stay away. Let's say, oh well, because you don't want it, we are not going to continue to invest to maintain and repair for that for facility. So regardless is that either owned by the private sector, they take part of the operating and manage that. We still, like say, that we overlook the facility and. That is a continue to maintain that. So I'm not too sure you mentioned about that, how we're going to get that investment, because that's government here to continue to help out. But that it's just the partnership is helping us out to take over the operating and help us out to maintain the facility. But if they don't want to do it, then with the government we take it over. We're going to look for the other non-profit organizations or the housing provider to take over. If not, then the government just take it back to maintain the facility.
Thank you, Minister. And Catherine, your follow-up question?
Yeah, I guess I just don't understand how that solves the problem. If the problem right now is that the end-of-life maintenance is too expensive for the government right now, how does that solve it to have to take it back and have taxpayers on the hook when the maintenance gets too expensive for the private sector?
But even though the private sector is taking over, or we continue to keep that facility, we still have to pay for the operating expenses, right? So that right now, if let's say there's some facility in a project that there's no interest that people or the private organizations take over. So the government is still continue to have to pay for the maintain and the operating costs on those facilities. So it just is that this initiative, they're working with the partnership, and we are hoping that those housing provider or nonprofit organization and then take the facility and look after that and maintain that. And the incentive for them is that they're going to have a part of a partnership, the facility. And also that we are continue to support from the government for this affordable housing to the renter, to the tenant. So.
Great. Thank you, Minister. We have enough time for one more question. So, operator, can you put through the last person?
Janet Brent, CBC.
Hi, Minister. I just wanted to follow up on something you said earlier where you were describing these agreements, conditions of sale or partnership agreements with joint ventures, and you mentioned caveats that would be on these organizations where they would be required to offer affordable housing or subsidized housing. So if a partner decides in the future that they're going to renege on that agreement, what can the government actually do? I mean, how much control do you have over a private operator? What are the consequences for that partner if they renege?
Well, if they lack, we have to. Of course, we're going to take over because they just don't think that there's a business they in, and that's why this is a very, very important that we get into agreement way ahead before we sign any agreement to go through all the details. And particularly, we emphasize that the government is not off a hand of not looking after. We are still maintaining that certain degrees that working with them, the private sector. And monitoring to make sure that the facility and stay in affordable housing. And particularly sometimes that the housings have the problem and they are not deliver that meet the expectations, then the government as a minister, our ministry have a right to just walk in and then to fix the problem. So that when we have a caveat on the agreement, that is the protecting that those one that they're not interested anymore after a few years, and then we can take it back, and then they know that when we take it back, then the contracts are terminated. So that all the details we will have to iron a little bit more later on, because right now we're still working on this. What does the agreement look like, and we still have to go through the legal on this. But you will get a detail later on.
Thank you, Minister. Janet, do you have a follow-up question?
I do. So there's a lot of talk here about the length of the waiting list, the number of people, households on this growing waiting list. In your 10-year plan, what is the target to eliminate the waiting list?
Well, I'm not too sure what's eliminated the waiting list. All we can say is we're trying to reduce the waiting list. Because right now, in the last, I would say, the 10 years, the waiting list has been increasing. I haven't decreased. As of like the last few years, increased by 35%. So I'm not too sure we can eliminate the whole 24,000 people on the wait list to zero. But what we can promise for this affordable housing strategy, we are targeting to reduce by 30% by the 2023. And hopefully more.
Great, thank you, Minister. And that is all the time that we have for today. I'd like to thank everybody for their coming in and to ask their questions. Thank you.